Welcome into another episode of the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. I'm your host, Richard Johnson. I'm joined by my guys, Brad Crawford and Emory Hunt. Guys, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving because we are back to dish out big picks on big games. It is Conference Championship Saturday, guys. There is something to play for, so it matters. We will start in the 1 versus 2 showdown in Indianapolis. Those Indiana Hoosiers, number 2 against the number 1 Ohio State Buckeyes, defending national champions, but not defending Big Ten champions. Obviously, it's been Lord knows how long since Indiana won the Big Ten championship. It is their first appearance in the Big Ten championship game. And Ohio State, it's been a little bit longer than you might expect for the Buckeyes haven't been in the game, I should say, since 2020. So, Brad, let's talk about just the matchup in general and how both teams have fared this season getting into this game before we break it down.
It's been pretty impressive when you consider that the Hoosiers and Buckeyes have gotten everybody's best shot in the Big Ten. We knew, guys, about midseason that these were the 2 best teams in the conference, especially after Ohio State had beaten Texas in that opener. And then Indiana had that early season win at Oregon that sort of re-put Kirk Cignetti's program on the map after making the playoff last year. I think we all assumed that this was going to be a 1 versus 2 matchup a month ago when the first playoff rankings came out, and these teams have not lost. This could be the first of 2 matchups we see this fall between the Buckeyes and Hoosiers. I'm looking forward to a heck of a game Saturday in Indianapolis between 2 teams I consider to be the 2 elites in their own tier this season.
Emory, the path both of these 2 teams have gone on to get here. Obviously, Indiana vanquishing Oregon on the road, kind of passing that test of, yeah, they're good, but can they beat a truly great team? They did that in October when they beat the Ducks. Ohio State finally got over the hump against Michigan. Obviously, the big game against Texas week 1 was a massive one for them. And then, to be honest with you, I wouldn't doubt you if you tuned out to the Buckeyes until Thanksgiving weekend when they were finally able to beat Michigan. So what have you made of both of these 2 teams, their path here?
Well, I like how Indiana had a great year last year, but they didn't rest on their laurels. It would have been cool if they were just like, all right, well, we got to the postseason and now we're back to being 7-5, 8-4. But they went to the offseason super hungry, wanted to get back to the playoffs and wanted to make a statement. They did that from start to finish by blowing out everybody and having a thrilling win against Penn State. So I love how they was like, this is not, last year it wasn't who we are. This year is who we are and who we're going to be moving forward. So the mentality that they showed this season was outstanding. And for Ohio State, what I really loved about this version of the Buckeyes is the fact that they lost all of those players to the NFL draft. And you had every right to say this team wasn't going to be as good as last season. But every week, starting with Texas, we saw a different reason why they won. And while the young players that were getting that starting experience, i.e. Julian Sayin, Bo Jackson, who became the guy midway through the season and got better every game since then, Julian Sayin got better every game since the Texas game. It became more of an asset and not a guy that's just driving the bus. So for me, watching both of these teams' path, it's been great to see for different reasons, but both are well-deserving of being where they are, ranked where they are, and that makes this game so fascinating.
Emory, let's talk about that run game you just mentioned in Bo Jackson. He was great against Michigan. The way Ohio State won that game physically, they iced the game with the run game. That had been the great question for Ohio State against Michigan in the last few years. Bo Jackson, a freshman, has come on very strong this season, has been a tremendous addition for them running the ball. They're going to go up against an Indiana front. That is no joke. Again, ask Oregon how physical Indiana is. And Indiana went to Autzen and pushed the Ducks around. That matchup, I know we want to talk about Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and Julian Sayin. Yeah, that matters. But that matchup in the trenches here is going to be huge.
Especially when you think about, okay, if all things are being equal, what's the difference? What changes the math? What has the advantage or who has the advantage? And what I love about Bo Jackson, firstly, I love how he said his name, is Lamar Jackson, but he didn't want to be known as Lamar Jackson, get confused with Lamar. So he chose Bo. Like, bro, our generation know who Bo Jackson is. Like, don't, you know what I'm saying? And you play running back. So stuff like that just kind of fascinating to me. But I like the fact that last week and throughout the season, we've seen Bo Jackson do a great job of seeing it front side to back side. So if it's going play side, let's say if it's for those that may not understand, if the run play is going to the left and it's sort of stonewall, he's able to see the backside lane and then work himself across multiple gaps to get there and do a good job of making that backside defender miss in space before outrunning him to the end zone. And so seeing that development from a young back speaks volumes, because that's how you overcome an offensive line that may not have the advantage physically in his game against Indiana. So it's going to be up to Bo Jackson to continue to see the game like he has with that hammerhead sharp peripheral vision, to where he's able to hit the cutback on the backside and get out there and win that one-on-one matchup in space, whether it's versus a backside defender versus an alley defender, or if he's going to have to physically fight through contact to hit a home run.
Brad, let's be honest. Ohio State has not faced a quarterback that can do what Fernando Mendoza can do. Arch Manning, with 8 months to plan for him in week 1 and his first real deal bona fide start on the road, is nothing compared to Fernando Mendoza. Neither is Bryce Underwood, who we know has all the talent in the world, nor is Damon Williams. So as far as quarterbacks this Ohio State defense has faced, Fernando Mendoza is the best, and I think he's the best by head and shoulders. How do you expect this Ohio State defense to fare against a surgical passer like Fernando Mendoza?
Yeah, the Buckeyes should take it personal as a biggest test of the year for them. Matt Patricia and that defense have been lights out this season. I don't think they've given up 3 touchdowns in a game right now as a defense. Like you said, Richard, obviously Indiana's offense is the most explosive they will face from a passing standpoint. You look at guys like Arvell Reese, he's going to be asked to cover at the outside linebacker spot. And on third down situations, that's going to be vital for Indiana. You talk about the quarterback matchup between Mendoza and Sayin, we're likely going to see the Heisman frontrunner come out of this game on Saturday. If Mendoza has 3 touchdown passes and beats an unbeaten top-ranked Ohio State team, then I think he's the odds-on favorite to win next weekend in New York. And then if Sayin, one of the most efficient quarterbacks in college football this season, has a great game against a better-than-expected Indiana defense, I would say, then maybe he's a front runner. So I also like how Ohio State, by the way, the last few weeks has had sort of a load management situation with Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. Both those guys have missed games. They've missed time for nagging injuries, and now it looks like both of them are fully healthy after playing last week against Michigan. So a lot of stars on the field for both teams this weekend.
Brad, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think there's going to be a key matchup here, which is if either Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith get matched up against D'Angelo Pons, for instance, in that Indiana secondary, right? Last week, Michigan found out that they didn't have enough up front to be able to leave their corners and their defensive backs on islands against Smith and Tate. Last year, Michigan was able to do it, and it's why they were able to really hold those guys down. A lot of double coverage. What approach do you think Indiana may take in this game because of that? Will they leave their guys on islands against Smith and Tate and say, guys, you got to hold up because we got to try to rush the passer here?
If I'm Indiana's defensive staff, I'm probably going to send some more guys than expected, at least early on against Julian Sayin, try to get him frustrated. Now, if the first time you blitz him, he has a 25-yard gain to Tate or Jeremiah Smith, then you have to hold back and drop a lot of guys into coverage. So it's sort of touch and go for Indiana. I think very few teams this season, Richard, have gotten Julian Sayin under duress, and that's what you're going to have to do against Ohio State. Now, if Bo Jackson in that rushing attack is averaging 4 or 5 yards a carry, you're not going to be able to do that because you got to stay honest and stop the run too. So Ohio State's going to come at Indiana from various angles. And really, I think this game will come down to, can the Hoosiers stop or at least limit a lot of these explosive plays? Because there's been times where Ohio State's offense has kind of gotten stuck in the mud early in games, but then you have 1 or 2 big plays that break it out, and then it's a wrap from there. So Indiana, if I'm the DC or the staff there in Bloomington, I am wondering, how do I get pressure on Julian Sayin without sending the house?
Brad, Emory, I should say. Let me throw it to you here. I talked to Brad about that Ohio State defense. Matt Patricia, much maligned coming into the season because of his work in the NFL when he wasn't under the tutelage of Bill Belichick. But it's been a great call for Ryan Day to be able to give Matt Patricia the keys to that defense, and he has cooked. He has cooked up a unit that is really, really strong up front. We know what Caleb Downs gives them on the back end, and you see it on your screen right there. Fewest points per game allowed in FBS over the last 30 years. I mean, that's a touchdown right there, basically, that Ohio State is allowing to 2 offenses this season, Emory.
Yeah, here's the thing. What I noticed with the defense this year is how they are attacking from back end to front end. So when you look at this matchup versus Indiana, it's going to be interesting because I'm smirking because I know how Mendoza has, he's proven he has lived right throughout the course of this season. He throws some interceptable passes because he throws one speed. And on the back end, with the way they are able to lock in, drive on the ball, we may see Ohio State pick off Mendoza at least twice in this ball game. And there's going to be opportunities. And in a game that's so close within the margins, can you steal a possession or two away from everybody, from the opponent? I think that's what we'll see, and that's why Ohio State defensively is a great matchup for Indiana for that reason alone.
All right, guys, let's pick it. Ohio State, Indiana, Buckeyes, -4, 4-point favorites in this game, over under set at 47.5. I'm going to take Indiana. I'm going to take Indiana plus 4.5 in this one. I think it's close. I think Ohio State wins, but I just love that Indiana is going to be able to really go back and forth with Ohio State. I don't think it's going to be like last year where Ohio State's really going to control the entire game and control the proceedings. So I like Indiana to cover the spread here. I think it's just going to be a last man with the ball wins situation in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I like Indiana -4. I like Ohio State -4 because I don't see a lot of these just crazy explosive plays happening at Lucas Oil Stadium. I think it's two very good defenses. Indiana's obviously undervalued a little bit defensively. We talk about the season Mendoza's had on the other side of the football and Kirk Cinetti's kind of guru on offense. Indiana's pretty darn good within that front seven too. So I don't see Ohio State being able to, run at will or generate a ton of explosives. So I like the under here too. Ohio State should cover -4 because the magic number for Indiana, in my opinion, is 20 points. If Indiana gets to 20 points, they're going to be in this game and be able to cover, because we've already talked about Ohio State giving up just under 8 points a game, best ever in college football.
I think we'll see Ohio State win this ball game. I actually believe the point spread is a tip to the cap to Indiana for how good they are, because otherwise this would have been a 10-point spread. So I think 4.5 is a really good number for this game. I believe that's how much Ohio State will win by, probably by a touchdown, because Ohio State, I feel like, has a matchup on a perimeter with their backs versus the receivers of Indiana, and it's going to force Mendoza to make accurate throws with touch and timing. I don't think that's a part of his game, and I feel like that's going to get them in trouble, and so we'll see the pressure get to him. I like Ohio State by a touchdown.
All right, guys, when we come back on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show, we're going to do a little SEC Championship preview. Welcome back to the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. Fellas, we got a big one in Atlanta, and it doesn't matter what you do in the SEC. The inevitability of the situation is that Georgia is going to play Alabama for the SEC championship game. We are getting it again for the fourth time in the last 15 years. All right, guys. Alabama is the big bugaboo for Georgia for all time, it feels like, under Kirby Smart. Smart is 1-7 against Alabama, the only win, ironically enough, in the national championship game years ago, his second year in the job. I think it's funny that, again, after all of this, it is these two teams that are going to match up. I think after week one, when Alabama took that loss to Florida State, you were wondering what this Alabama team was going to be, but they were able to generate a level of consistency throughout the season, especially when they went through that gauntlet in October. They ended up being a really impressive team. Georgia's obviously only loss was to Alabama early in the season. So as far as the path both of these teams have taken to get here, Brad, how impressed are you with Alabama being able to shake off the loss to Florida State and being able to shake off that loss to Oklahoma and still being able to navigate to Atlanta?
Yeah, I've been very impressed. I was on the record back in early September saying I thought Alabama was closer to an 8-4 type team than they were right now at 10-2, about to make the playoff. I'm frankly stunned that Alabama has made it to Atlanta, obviously beat Auburn last week in the Iron Bowl to secure that spot. Hats off to Kalen DeBoer. He is now pretty much locked into a playoff spot here to end his second season at Alabama, which I thought was going to be, the tell-all for DeBoer. He had to get to the playoff this fall. Ty Simpson was a Heisman candidate heading into November, had some mistakes against Oklahoma, cost him that game, but he settled down these last few weeks. The issue I have, Richard, Alabama's won a lot of single-possession games against elite competition, and they've basically done so without much of a power run game. At what point is that going to hurt them this fall? Could it be Saturday against Georgia? Could it be maybe a quarterfinal game in the playoff? We don't know yet. But Alabama, I can see why this line is 2.5, 3 points, because like you said, in the past, the Crimson Tide have dominated Kirby Smart.
Brad, Jam Miller is questionable for this game, got hurt in the Iron Bowl, lower leg injury for Jam Miller. Emory, I'm glad Brad brought up that run game because, yes, that has been the thing that I felt has been holding Alabama back this season. Can Bama run the ball against Georgia, Emory? They did struggle to in the second half against Georgia Tech last week. I was at that game in this same stadium last Friday night. Center Drew Bobo being out for this game for Georgia is huge. That's as far as Georgia's run game is concerned. But as far as Alabama's run game is concerned, the Jam Miller injury is big as well. Which run game do you think, Emory, has the upper hand here?
I think both do, to be completely honest, for different reasons. I always find it fascinating when we always question how Georgia and Alabama got here. But when you look at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, you see why. I don't even know how they even find these kids anymore. The grandmothers don't look like they used to look in the 70s and 80s to produce these type of kids, these grandkids. So I don't know how these kids are looking like they look now, right? But when you also factor in Gunnar Stockton's ability to run the football, that enhances Georgia's game. It alleviates some of the pressure off of the running backs. And for Bama, I think it's about the attempts. As long as the attempts are there, it'll help them get what they need out the passing game and also get what they need out of protection. So I'm not necessarily worried about Alabama's yards per carry or the amount of yards. I'm more so worried about their attempts. And for Georgia, I'm more worried about, okay, how can they utilize Gunnar Stockton's athleticism as an addition to their run game to help the backs have success running the football?
Emory, you talk about being more worried about the attempts. What is it about that that you're worried about?
It's because if you run the football, and here's the thing, I know this is the big, fight between the analytics and the tape guys, right? And the football guys. It's about the attempts being there because we know how that wears down up front. I mean, if you ever had a point of attack play, Rich was an offensive lineman, you know what that's like over the course of a game. Like, that's just wearing you down on both sides, right? Linemen get worn down, as do the defensive linemen. So it becomes easier to run the ball later in the game if the attempts are there. You're more physical when you're imposing your will on someone as opposed to playing passive and pass pro. So I think that's why, for Bama's sake, because they don't have those tailbacks that the Georgia Bulldogs have, it helps them out if the attempts are there more so than the explosiveness that Georgia has at their disposal.
Emory, I was a terrible offensive lineman. You would have not wanted me to be blocking for you down there at Louisiana when you were toting the mail. Brad, LT Overton going to be out of this game for Alabama. How do you think that affects Alabama's defense? I thought their pass rush and their defensive front was coming along a little bit, but with Overton out, you're going to have to go a little bit deeper into the depth chart up front for Bama.
Yeah, and there were some spots in the Iron Bowl, Richard, where I think Bama showed some weaknesses within that front seven, just kind of missed some tackles and wasn't particularly gap sound at times against Auburn's sort of quarterback run / running back run plays. I mean, for Alabama, there's not a player on defense that really scares me if I'm Georgia's OC and part of that offensive staff. And just like Emory said, I mean, the fact that Gunnar Stockton can get 4 or 5 yards on a quarterback keeper, that's the kind of run game that Georgia needs to stick to Saturday afternoon against Bama. And then a question for me is, where has Ryan Williams been? I mean, he was a preseason All-American, hasn't scored a touchdown, I think, in over a month. And then in the Iron Bowl last weekend, his snaps were an issue. I mean, his usage rate has completely gone down within this offense as one of the most explosive players in the SEC. So is this the weekend that maybe Bama sides with Ryan Williams and tries to get him more involved? I kind of question that based on how he's played the last few weeks. But there's some questions right now for Alabama. Obviously, I see why Georgia is a narrow favorite in this game.
Brad, I know he's certainly probably a long shot to win the award, but is there any chance Ty Simpson, with kind of a legendary game, could kind of usurp the Heisman and get it done? Or do you think that the Heisman is going to be decided in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I mean, let's say Ty Simpson goes for, 325 and 5 touchdowns with no interceptions, and Bama has its best win of the season, beats Georgia a second time, and then we have a low-scoring Big Ten championship game. I think that would solidify a Heisman finalist trip for Ty Simpson, sure. Probably, possibly over Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt, who I think is going to be one of those nominees from the SEC. but Ty Simpson has made some turnovers late in the season. Even against Eastern Illinois, he had 2 interceptions, and those were just not good plays. Ty Simpson has been taking care of the ball the first 8 or 9 weeks, but these last few games, we've seen some mistakes. So Ty has a good chance to pick it up Saturday, and with a big win over Georgia, obviously Heisman voters are going to be watching that game from Atlanta.
All right, guys, let's pick it. I think it's going to happen again to Georgia. Alabama plus 2.5. I just don't think, especially with center Drew Bobo out, that Georgia's offense is going to be able to score enough. I think it's going to clunk in the red zone just like it did last week. I think they're going to have an issue with efficiency. I know they're going to have an issue generating the deep play as well, will the Dogs. So give me the Tide plus 2.5 to get it done against Georgia for the second time this season.
I'm going to go the other side of this, Georgia minus 2.5. I really felt that Georgia should have won that first game. It was a 3-point game midway through the third quarter at home, and then no more points were scored. Georgia had a golden opportunity and just sort of let it slide through their fingers. Alabama scored its first couple possessions. Kalen DeBoer and that offense with Ryan Grubb was dialing it up early. I don't think we see that Saturday afternoon. I think we see a low-scoring game. Georgia does a good job of winning these ugly defensive slugfest. And then Bama did do a good job this season of winning those prior to the loss to Oklahoma. So I think a key turnover late in the second half cost Alabama. Georgia wins, but both these teams are playoff locks.
I'm right there with you, Brad. I feel like in that first game, Georgia couldn't get off the field on third down. That's all Alabama was converting, was third downs and staying on the field. And Ty Simpson was playing his best then, but now, as you pointed out, he's been up and down. He'll start the game off great, but then in the second half, he's missing open deep throws. He's missing some targets, and then he's turning the ball over. And right now, I don't know if that's Stetson Bennett or Gunnar Stockton or Stetson Stockton and Gunnar Bennett. Like, they the same guy, right? And how they play and that type of galvanization of a quarterback around a team or a team around a quarterback is what's going to push this Georgia Bulldogs team over that hump, that bugaboo of Alabama in a championship game.
All right, guys, when we come back on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show, we're going to break down the ACC and Big 12 championship games. Welcome back to the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. All right, guys, let's go down there to Dallas. BYU, Texas Tech, rematch of just a couple weeks ago for the Big 12 championship. BYU got some good news this week when Kalani Sitake extended his run down in Provo. He will not be Penn State's head coach. He'll be sticking around for the long haul. Texas Tech seeking their first conference championship in a long time. It's their first conference championship berth in school history. And it's going to be really interesting for Texas Tech if they are able to summit the Big 12 and say, hey, at the end of the day, we bought a team that can play and won a conference championship. BYU needs this game to be in the college football playoff. Brad, we've got a very interesting bid stealing situation with BYU one way or the other in the college football playoff race, do we not?
This is a great scenario if you're BYU on the bubble. One of 3 bubble teams I consider heading in here with Notre Dame at 10, BYU at 11, and then Miami at 12. If BYU wins, the Big 12 locks in a second bid. BYU could even host a first-round home game as a Big 12 champion, and that knocks out Notre Dame, and it totally ends the discussion that we're prepared for Sunday afternoon between the Irish and Hurricanes. Not enough people are talking about BYU right now. I see all these strength of schedule, resume comparisons, and game control and quality wins, and BYU's never in the graphics. I mean, Kalani Sitake said this week, why are national media members so biased against us? Why are we not talking about BYU getting an at-large bid, even with a loss to Texas Tech? So I'm very interested, Richard, to see if Texas Tech wins this game, let's say 34-31, does BYU have an argument at 11-2 against a 10-2 Notre Dame? I think the Cougars do.
Well, we're biased against BYU because Texas Tech's an absolute wagon so far this season. Look, 12.5-point favorite is Texas Tech in this game. This is not stacked up like the other two conference championship games that we talked about earlier. It is my opinion that Texas Tech is in a different league than BYU. They're just so good up front. I just think BYU will again struggle to move the ball, just like they did in the first matchup between these two teams. Again, it's not like BYU showed that they were a very good team the first time these two teams played in Lubbock, Emory. That matchup did not go the way of BYU, and it was more than just the fact they couldn't move the ball. They had issues on special teams in that game as well. We have seen these two teams play before.
Yeah, and here's the thing. When you look at BYU, the defense was game and ready to go against Texas Tech. Like you mentioned, the offense just didn't show up, and the special teams, they had their issues. But now they're playing better offensively. LJ Martin, I think that was his first game back, but now he's really revved up and ready to go as a runner. And you hope Bachmeier, the freshman quarterback, is ready to handle the challenge this time around. And so I'm excited to see how this plays out, because at the end of the day, if they win, it would be fascinating to see BYU and Notre Dame argue about who should be in, because that's a fascinating argument between those two fan bases for different reasons. But when you think about the on-the-field stuff and Texas Tech, how well they've played, this is a nod to them, because it was a close game considering, BYU's defense did a solid job, but Texas Tech just is so good on both sides of the ball that they overwhelmed BYU throughout the course of the ball game. So this one, I feel like both teams are playoff teams, and BYU showed some grit against Iowa State. They showed their mettle throughout the course of the season. Their only blemish to me is against Texas Tech. So this is a football team that should be in the postseason, but man, it's unfortunate we only have 12 spots.
Here we go again. Emory's trying to get your playoff expansion takes in there any way he can. With BYU, look, LJ Martin, tremendous running back for them, has absolutely paced them so far this season, Brad. But if he's not really able to get anything going, I'm really concerned about how BYU could fare in this game.
Yeah, I mean, BYU, there's a good chance they win the time possession battle because Texas Tech goes so fast and there's so many explosive plays. But we saw in that first game, BYU, we just showed the graphic, lost a turnover battle 3-0. You've got no chance Saturday in the Big 12 title game if you do that again, a repeat of that game in Lubbock. So BYU, they can sort of play with house money. They're the only bubble team right now playing for a spot in this postseason. Notre Dame is idle. Miami did not make the ACC championship game, so here we go. BYU has a chance. That's how I would rally those guys in the locker room if I'm the coaching staff there for the Cougars. And I think it's a situation where Texas Tech is actually the team playing under pressure. Red Raiders are trying to, win out, get that first round bye and top 4 seed. Obviously, they're going to get that Saturday if they do beat BYU. But they just haven't been challenged at all this season outside of that road hiccup they had at Arizona State. At some point, a team's going to play Texas Tech where the Red Raiders don't have a 4-touchdown lead late in the second quarter. I think that happens this weekend.
All right, guys, let's pick it. I'm taking Texas Tech. Maybe not a 4-touchdown lead in the second quarter, but at some point in time, they will have at least a 2-touchdown lead, and they will cover this 12.5-point spread. I think the Red Raiders roll in this game.
I like BYU plus 12.5. I'm going to include that too later on in the show in my parlay because I just think the Cougars, like I said, they're playing for a spot in the 12-team playoff. One of the few teams this weekend that sort of has that carrot at the end of the stick for themselves. If Bear Bachmeier can't turn it over, you've got to get a lead early and at least keep it within the number of the second half. Be in this game late if you're BYU, and the committee is going to look favorably on you Saturday night when they meet for final deliberations.
Right. If they can close the gap between what the first game looked like and what this game potentially could look like, if they lose by, let's say, 4 points, that may help their cause. But I like Texas Tech here, too. I'm always going to count on oil money to come through in the clutch. That's minus 12.5 for a team that's built like this on both sides of the ball. Playing in Texas, man, give me Texas Tech all day.
All right, guys, let's address the college football playoff chaos scenario. If Duke, yes, Duke, wins the ACC championship, there's a pretty good chance that it'll be James Madison who gets in as the 5th highest ranked conference championship team. If the Dukes can take care of business in the Sun Belt title game, it'd be them and the American, and the ACC would be shut out. The American Conference champion would go, the Sun Belt Conference champion would go. The Duke needs to win this game, though, in order for that to happen. Brad, we were talking in the break, though. There's a way Duke can win this game where they can give the committee a very interesting calculus. You want to put a 5-loss Duke team in the college football playoff?
I mean, if Duke and Darian Menza has 365, they win 35-10 Saturday night. And essentially, I consider it a home game in Charlotte for Duke. A lot of Duke fans should make that trip from Durham to see a team possibly make the playoff. I think Manny Diaz is saying the same thing. We've heard him this week say, he thinks Miami's a playoff team. He thinks Duke's going to be in the playoff if they beat Virginia. I guarantee Duke will be in the playoff if Miami isn't, if the Blue Devils win Saturday night. There's no way this committee is going to keep the ACC out of the playoff completely in favor of two G5s. I just don't see it happening. I know JMU was ranked 25th this week. First time the Dukes have been ranked by the selection committee, but we don't know where Duke is. Are they 35th? Are they 45th right now? And the committee does not have to reveal that. Maybe Duke's 26th and just needs this win over a top 20 Virginia team to get in. So Manny Diaz, he's got reason to celebrate if he wins this weekend.
Emory, Virginia handled business the first time these two teams played just a few weeks ago, winning 34-17. But we have not talked a ton about this Virginia team. Look, they've hung on by the hair of their chinny chin chin. They won by as little as humanly possible against North Carolina a few weeks ago in double overtime. This Virginia team has been a nice story so far this season with what they have with Chandler Morris, with what they have in sort of the three-headed monster in the run game, good up front. What have you made about this Virginia team, which sits at the cusp of, if they are able to handle business, just waltzing into the college football playoff as the ACC champion?
Being able to identify talent. You also got Prevard from Morgan State, the freshman of the year in the MEAC on defense, is now starting corner out there on the edge at 6'3". Jamari Taylor, North Carolina Central tailback, MEAC player of the year, starting tailback, leading the ACC in rushing and stuff like that. So my thing is they identified the talent, they cultivated the talent, and the 34-17, I'm more concerned about the 34 because that tells me Duke's defense hadn't changed a bit because they've been in the highest scoring games. Their defense can't stop anybody. Expect Virginia to stop them and win that ball game. And I think it's cute that Brad was like, they'll show out for Durham. Bro, it's basketball season. Duke is in Cameron Indoor Fieldhouse. They ain't coming to no football game.
All right, guys, let's pick it quickly. Give me Duke +4. I just want the chaos, if I'm going to be honest with you. I think Duke overcomes. It's hard to beat a team twice, even though I picked Alabama to do it earlier in the show, and I picked Texas Tech to do it. Give me Duke +4 in this game. They get it done outright.
I'll take Virginia -4. Tony Elliott was my postseason CBS Sports Coach of the Year. I might have been the only guy that had Tony Elliott as National Coach of the Year. 5-7 last year, completely revamped that roster. I know the headlines are Chandler Morris, but like Emory said, they've got a star running back. They got a wide receiver at 900 yards and 5 touchdowns this season. I think Virginia gets it done, punches its ticket as the 11 seed in the postseason.
Well, Elliott got 2 votes because he was my pick too, Brad. So we right there lockstep. Give me Virginia to win this one and take the Cavaliers into the postseason.
All right, when we come back on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show, we're going to whip around some of the other conference title games this weekend. Welcome back to the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. Guys, we got a conference championship edition of the Blitz. Let's start on Friday night with the Sun Belt title game. James Madison against Troy. And guys, this is barely a conference championship game if you want to be honest about it. James Madison, 23.5-point favorite. I think they cover this game easily, quite frankly. Duke's roll, and Duke's put the pressure on Duke to give us the chaos scenario in the college football playoff on Saturday. If Duke can get it done, James Madison covers here for me.
I'm with you too, Richard. I'm taking JMU heavy cover. This line keeps swelling. I think it opened at 20.5. Now it's 23.5. Maybe it's 25.5 by the time this game kicks off. Bob Chesney sticking around to see it through. Big time Sun Belt championship on the line. I think JMU scores a lot of points tonight and knows that it has to hang a crooked number to impress this committee. I know JMU was ranked 25th this week, but depending on the ACC championship game, they need to put their best foot forward and leave a lasting impression on this committee. JMU -23.5.
I'm right there with you guys. I'm taking the over of 46.5 because listen, I'm all for college Sean McVay, Bob Chesney doing his thing because I feel like they're gonna have to run it up, and this is the perfect, pawn to do it against in Troy. Shout out to the Trojans though, but at the end of the day, JMU is a wagon. They have legit aspirations. Give me the over 46.5 points.
All right, guys, Conference USA Conference Championship game, Kennesaw State and Jacksonville State. I'm going to take Jacks plus 2.5 in this game. Jacksonville State, man, you were talking about a wagon. They run the ball really well so far this season. Camp Creel, Cam Cook, really, really good for them or the Gamecocks. I think the Gamecocks win this game outright. Obviously, 2.5 they cover as well.
Yeah, you guys know from this show all season, I don't take many totals, but I like over 60.5 in this game. Kennesaw State last 3 games has given up 35 points, 34 points, then 42 points in overtime. So I like the overplay here. I like Kennesaw State to win the game, but the over 60.5 is my primary play. Should be a lot of points in this one.
I'm right there with you, Brad. Again, over 60.5 points. These two teams scored damn near 60 together combined the last time they met. And now you add a conference championship on CBS Sports Network. By the way, man, they got to turn up and show out. So give me over 60.5 points. I think this one gets into the 70s.
In the American Conference Championship game, North Texas minus 2.5. That's my pick. Drew Mestemaker brings the mean green against the Green Wave. And let me tell you, this guy is phenomenal. Absolutely box office player is Drew Mestemaker. I think he's too strong for this Tulane defense. He leads an aerial attack for North Texas that will get it done for North Texas minus 2.5.
I'm with you there. North Texas has been my G5 favorite for, I want to say, 8 weeks now. I've had them in this projected CBS Sports bracket. I think Mestemaker gets it done this weekend. It was key that Eric Morris, despite taking the Oklahoma State job, is also going to stick around at this G5 program. North Texas could potentially be one of, 4 Texas teams not named the Texas Longhorns to make this postseason. So North Texas right now, minus 2.5. I think they win the American, and at worst, get the 12th seed.
Love North Texas as well. Land the points with them. Their defense is better than Tulane's offense in terms of consistency. And Retzlaff puts the ball in harm's way a lot for my taste. Messmaker is outstanding. Barely puts the ball in harm's way. 47 touchdown passes. Their running back has 23 rushing touchdowns. So give me North Texas big.
Guys, Mountain West Conference Championship game to finish this out here on the Blitz. Boise, minus 5.5. I like that. Look, guys, it is poetic that Boise's final game in this conference will come in the conference championship game. And I do think it would be fitting for them to ride out in the sunset with a win over UNLV for the second time this season. Because of that, and because of the fact that, look, we've been down on Boise a lot so far this season. They certainly have fallen off quite a bit from last year's incredible team, but I do think they have enough here to handle UNLV.
I was going to say, since that 56-31 spread last time these two teams played. I mean, the Broncos showed me, at least on paper and on film, all I needed to pick this one. I think they roll again against UNLV. And I have to ask, is there distractions right now for the Rebels? How many jobs did Dan Mullen interview for this cycle? We don't know that number, but you know it's several because he's itching to get back to the Power Conference program. So I like Boise State here, Mountain West Conference champions.
Points, Pernt in New Orleans, Punkte in German, Agujas in Spanish. Give me all the points. Give me over 60.5 points in this ball game because Brad is right. What has changed? Nothing. Defense is optional. Points galore in this Mountain West Conference Championship game. And I'm bilingual.
Polyglot. The word is polyglot, Emory, and it is very impressive. Always. All right, guys, when we come back on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show, going to give you some Friday parlays to get you into the weekend. Welcome back to the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. All right, guys, you heard enough from us. Let's hear from the model. Let's see how our Sportsline model picks the conference championship weekend. And its big pick is in the Big 12. The model's taking BYU versus Texas Tech. It is taking the over 49.5 in 67% of simulations. It likes that number over 49.5. I will say the model play has gotten strung a couple wins together and a little win streak here, and is going to ends the regular season 8-5, I should say. So model is doing pretty good. All right, guys, separate from the model, we got our parlays, our Friday parlays, and I will start us off with the absolute chaos scenario, the chaos parlay, because you're supposed to be the change you want to see in the world. So here I will be that change. Texas Tech minus 535. That ain't no problem. That gets BYU out of the college football playoff field. Then give me Duke plus 150. You know Duke is our chaos agent so far. Then give me Georgia minus 135. All right, it's par for the course here with those three picks. We can see those things happen. But Brad, I don't want to take it into a debate Sunday morning about whether Duke goes over the Dukes. How about we pick Troy plus 1,300 on the money line to do the business for us and get James Madison, unfortunately for the Dukes, out of the paint, in which case Duke will be absolutely in the conference championship game, no debate, and my parlay is plus 71.31. So if we get chaos, we will also get you paid here on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show.
Yeah, I would advise y'all taking that JMU pick first, because when it doesn't cash, then you've got time Saturday to remake a new parlay. So my parlay this week, I'm going with a 4-teamer, 3 money lines and a point spread. I like Kennesaw State, I like Georgia, and I like Virginia. All three of those to win: Kennesaw State, Georgia, Virginia. And then BYU plus 12.5. That would cap it at plus 806. One of my highest parlay plays this season. I almost took BYU money line. Y'all are selling the Cougars short. I'm telling you, it's going to be competitive in the Big 12 championship game. But that's my 4-teamer right there to cash plus 806.
Guys, listen, it wouldn't be a last show if it wouldn't be for a big-time parlay. So we got some parlays for you guys. A mix of money line, a mix of spread, a mix of FCS and FBS. So let's pull up the full screen, because I know we got one, because I can't memorize all these picks, right? So let's start with the money line. Miami of Ohio winning the MAC championship. I told you about Chuck Martin. He's outstanding. UVA, Ohio State, Georgia, they're winning money lines. Texas Tech landed 12.5. I also like North Texas minus 2.5. Lehigh against Villanova minus 4.5. They stay undefeated and move on to the semifinals. Mercer minus 5.5 against South Dakota. I hope the Coyotes know they're going to make it. They're not going to Atlanta. So Prairie View A&M in the SWAC championship game for the rights to go to the Celebration Bowl plus 7.5. And when you add that up, plus what? 20,357 guys. You talk about be the change you want to see. Guess who about to be the new Texas Tech next year if we hit this parlay, right? Because if you think about it, you have the best quarterback in football history, Jake Delhomme. Best wide receiver, Brandon Stokely. Best cornerback duo, Ike Taylor, Charles Tillman. Should I go more? Best kickoff returner in NFL history that should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Brian Mitchell. So why not, guys? Why not be UL? Great food, great atmosphere. The scenery, wink, wink, is outstanding down that way in Southwest Louisiana. So trust your boy.
Emory, thank you, as always, for an epic parlay. Brad, really quickly, before we get out of here, on that CFP bubble, BYU 28% chance to get in, Miami 10% chance in, Texas probably not getting in, Vandy probably not getting in. Who are you getting into the college football playoff?
If Texas Tech beats BYU, the committee is not putting Miami over Notre Dame for that final spot. Notre Dame will be on the road. They get the last team in. Look, the committee has showed us for 5 weeks that they think Notre Dame's a better team than Miami. Why would a 6-week change that when neither team is playing? Don't believe the Miami stuff. Notre Dame is getting in as long as Texas Tech beats BYU.
I don't know, Brad. I don't know. I think that committee can surprise you sometimes. Guys, we appreciate it, as always, for joining us on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. For my guy, Brad Crawford, and Hoodie Emory Hunt, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.